Ward number 8. When my wife was admitted to the psychiatric hospital, I brought her flowers every Thursday. White chrysanthemums. She always said they smelled like peace. Every Thursday after work, I stopped at the same flower shop, picked the freshest bouquet, asked the florist to wrap them in white paper with a small ribbon. Then I drove across the city and left them at the clinic's reception desk with a handwritten note. Hang in there. I am waiting for you. The nurse at the desk, a pleasant woman with round glasses, always said the same thing. She is making wonderful progress, but she needs rest. No visitors just yet. For 8 months, I brought those flowers. For 8 months, I slept alone, cooked dinner for one, walked our dog alone through the park where we used to walk together. For 8 months, I told everyone the same reassuring thing. Alina is getting treatment. She is doing better. She will be home soon. Alina was never in that hospital. Not for a single day. My name is Roman. I am 35. This is the story of how I lived inside a lie for 8 months without suspecting a thing. Alina and I met in a bookstore on a rainy Saturday. She was by the classic shelf, holding Anna Karenina, laughing quietly to herself. I asked what was funny. She said, I am reading this for the 5th time, and every time I think Anna is going to make a different choice. I fell in love right there between the shelves. 3 years together, 2 married. Small garden wedding, daisies in her hair. Alina worked as a psychologist at a private practice. The irony of a psychologist staging a psychiatric diagnosis to hide an affair is not lost on me. It started with depression. She became withdrawn, slept 14 hours a day, stopped laughing at things that used to make her laugh. I was terrified. Drove her to a real psychiatrist. He prescribed antidepressants. Things improved. Then came what she called a relapse. She sat on the edge of our bed and said, Roman, I need inpatient care. I have arranged it with a private clinic outside the city. They specialize in anxiety disorders. 2 to 3 months. I did not question it. She was a psychologist. She knew what she needed. I helped her pack, folded her favorite sweater on top so she would see it first. She asked me not to come inside. Something about emotional boundaries being part of the treatment. I stood by the taxi and watched her walk to the entrance with her suitcase. She turned and waved. I waved back. That was the last time I saw my wife in person for 8 months. First few weeks, she called daily. Short calls, 5 to 10 minutes. She described therapy sessions, other patients, a garden on the grounds. It all sounded real. Then the calls came less often. Every 3 days. Then weekly. The doctors want me to disconnect from outside life. Part of the healing process. It sounded logical for a psychiatric clinic. I called the clinic myself. The same nurse answered every time. Alina is in group therapy. I will pass along that you called. I asked to speak with the doctor. Dr. Petrov is in session, but he is very pleased with her progress. Once, about 4 months in, a man called me back. Deep, confident voice. Your wife is on a positive trajectory. Another 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months turned into 5. 5 into 8. And every Thursday, I drove across the city with chrysanthemums. My worry shifted. Not toward an affair. That would not have crossed my mind in my darkest nightmare. I worried her condition was worse than they admitted. That the diagnosis had changed. That she was deteriorating and they were protecting me from the truth. My friend Tara's came over one evening and said, Roman, have you tried just showing up without calling? Walk in and tell them you want to see your wife with your own eyes. I hesitated for weeks. It felt like overstepping, like I did not trust the professionals. But at 8 months, I could not take it anymore. Took a day off, got in the car, and drove. The clinic was real. Handsome stone buildings surrounded by trees and gardens. Reception area with leather armchairs and classical music. Everything looked professional and expensive. I walked to the front desk. The woman behind it was not the nurse I knew. Good afternoon. I am the husband of Alina Kowalski. I would like to visit her. She typed the name. Looked at the screen. Typed again. Looked up at me. I am sorry, sir. We do not have a patient by that name. I gave the date of birth. Described her in detail. The woman checked current patients, discharged patients, the full archive for 18 months. No one by that name has ever been treated here. I am absolutely certain. The floor dropped from under me. My vision went dark at the edges. I walked outside on shaking legs, sat on a bench, and stared at trees for an hour without moving. Then I called the number the nurse had been using. The familiar voice answered. Harmony Clinic. How may I help you? Who are you? I asked. A pause. A sharp breath. The line went dead. When I called back, the number was disconnected permanently. Tara's helped me unravel the scheme over 2 weeks. We worked through it piece by piece, like pulling apart a knot that kept getting tighter the more you pulled. The clinic was real. The building, the gardens, the receptionist, all real. But the nurse and the doctor I had spoken with for 8 months had absolutely no connection to it. They were performers in a play my wife had written, directed, and produced. The nurse was Catherine, Alina's former college classmate who owed her a significant favor from years back. Alina paid her $500 a month to answer a dedicated phone line, accept my flowers at the reception desk, and tell me everything was fine. Catherine had a script. Alina had actually written out detailed responses for every possible question I might ask, organized by category. What to say if he asks about medication. What to say if he asks to visit. What to say if he gets emotional on the phone. She had prepared for everything, like a director preparing an actress for opening night. The doctor was Artem, and Artem was not an actor hired for a role. He was the man Alina had been living with for all 8 months. A yoga instructor she knew from before we met. They reconnected on social media during our marriage. He lived in a rented house 30 kilometers away, paid for with monthly transfers from our joint savings that I thought were covering treatment. For 8 months, my wife lived with another man half an hour from our home. She played patient when she called me. Her friend played nurse. Her lover played doctor. And every Thursday, Catherine came to the real clinic, collected my chrysanthemums from the receptionist, walked them to the parking lot, and threw them in the dumpster. 32 bouquets of white chrysanthemums. In the dumpster. Every single one. When I called Alina and told her I knew everything, she did not cry, did not explain. She said, almost whispering, I did not want you to be hurt. And hung up. The divorce was quick. My lawyer recovered most of the transferred money. I chose not to pursue Catherine legally, though I could have. She sent a handwritten apology, pages of shaky writing with visible tear stains on the paper. She wrote that she knew it was wrong, that she told herself it was not her business, that Alina had convinced her it was temporary and nobody would get hurt. I did not read past the first paragraph. I could not. Artem vanished, deleted all social media, moved out of the rented house, disappeared somewhere south. I do not know where, and I do not care to find out. Part of me wanted to confront him. Part of me wanted to stand in front of him and ask how he could answer the phone, pretend to be a doctor, and tell a man his wife was getting better while she was lying next to him in bed. But I realized that nothing he could say would change what happened. Some questions have no answers worth hearing. 6 months later, Alina messaged. I started real therapy. They diagnosed a personality disorder. I am not making excuses. I just want you to know I am sorry. I read it. Did not reply. Deleted it. Blocked her number. You know what haunts me most? Not the lies. Not the betrayal. Not the stolen money. The flowers. The white chrysanthemums I chose every Thursday with such care. The notes I wrote in my neatest handwriting. The 45-minute drive across the city. The receptionist who must have thought I was the most devoted husband she had ever seen. 32 bouquets. 32 handwritten notes. All in a parking lot dumpster, wilting next to coffee cups and candy wrappers. I do not buy flowers anymore. For anyone. Maybe someday I will again. But not chrysanthemums. Never again chrysanthemums. Because chrysanthemums do not smell like peace anymore. They smell like lies. Like empty waiting rooms and disconnected phone numbers and notes that nobody ever read. And that is the most honest thing I have left to say.